Dunges will bring retired Bishop David Dunges. You never retire really, David. You know, you just still praying. Lead us in our invitation.
I don't know what it is about retirement he doesn't understand. I'm retired, but let us pray. Holy God and mighty Lord, once again we gather and we praise and thank you for the privilege of life with all of its joys and all of its challenges. The world around us is ever-changing. We now live in a global community, and as Rotarians, we are now a part of a service above self worldwide community, committed to world peace and to alleviating human suffering. And for that we are grateful. By your grace and spirit within us, may we continue to be change agents in the world around us and in the world which surrounds us. So grace us now with your blessing of our table time of food and fellowship, and remind us that in your creative will and purpose for us, each day we are to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with you and with each other, for the sake of all that is good and holy. Amen.
Thank you, David. All right. You may notice that we don't have cart buckets on the table. We're going to put those cart buckets on the out by the badges, so put some money in before you leave today, okay? All right. Of the things we think, say, or do, the four-way test: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right. You may sit down. Please put your phones on silent if you don't mind. And Sue Williams will come to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Welcome everyone to the Rotary on the Cinco de Mayo, for those who celebrate. We have several visiting Rotarians with us from the 5 Points Club, Emerson Smith. Thank you. From Columbia East, Beaver Hardy. There he is. From the West Metro, Butch Wallace. Butch? Nope, I think he just came in, along with Congressman Joe Wilson from the KC Club. We also have a couple of Rotarians with guests. If you would please stand and introduce your guests to the rest of our club.
Well, let me start, if you don't mind, Sue. My wife, Deanna, is here today. Deanna, welcome. And I have a new friend, Marion Ziegler, who came over from Sumter. Marion, where are you seated? There you are. Thanks for being here, Marion. Other guests? Is that it? Robert?
Thank you. Robert Goins here. I have Jacob Goblin. Jacob is a rising second-year law student here at the University of South Carolina. He's working for my law firm this summer. He's from Hartsville, and you probably know he's a graduate of law.
All right.
Other guests?
Other guests? I know of a couple of other guests, one of our new members. Let me introduce Rosa Creech, who is Ted Creech's wife. Rosa, welcome. And your son, Dylan, is here as well. Welcome, Dylan and Rosa. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you all. Welcome to Rotary.
Thank you, Sue. Okay. And Bob, you have health and happiness. Bob Moore.
Mason Hardy, raise your hand. There he is. He has just completed his training and has been certified as a certified financial planner, and it took a 3-year course, wasn't that right? So congratulations. That's what it takes. So congratulations. Let's congratulate. John Paris, where's John Paris? Yeah, he's back after a couple of years of being away, so let's welcome him back. John. Well, today is Cinco de Mayo. It's a Mexican thing. It marks the day when the Mexicans defeated the French, and it's called Cinco de Mayo because it happened on May 5th. Which is what Cinco de Mayo means. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? There were these two guys who were traveling in Mexico, and in their travels, they saw a lot of magnificent cathedrals and beautiful churches, and so they were having dinner one evening, and they were talking about what they'd seen. We saw all these cathedrals, we saw all these churches, but you know what? We didn't see a synagogue. We haven't seen a synagogue. I wonder why that is. And so they called the waiter over and they asked the waiter, said, do you have any Mexican Jews? And he kind of looked at them and he threw up his hands and they repeated the question, do you have any Mexican Jews? And he brought the head waiter over and they asked him the same question, do you have any Mexican Jews? And he said, what? And they asked him again, do you have any Mexican Jews? So he went and got the manager, and the manager came out and smiled, and they asked him the question, you know, we've been traveling around, do you have any Mexican Jews? And so he said, one moment, please. He was gone for a while, and he came back, and he said, I've been to the kitchen. We have orange Jews and apple Jews, and we have tomato Jews, but we don't have no Mexican Jews. Weather's been in the news lately. There's been tornadoes, we've had rain, we've had floods. There was one small town in Texas, they went to bed Saturday night, everything was okay, and then it started raining, and it rained and rained and rained and rained. Downpour, rain like hardly anybody had ever seen before, harder and harder. And by Monday morning, the town was absolutely flooded. Water was halfway up to the rooftops on certain houses in the town, and people were climbing up to the top of their roof in order to escape the flood, and now they're just sitting there watching the water below. And in one neighborhood, two houses were side by side, and two ladies were sitting, one on each rooftop, and there in front of the house of this one lady, there was this 10-gallon hat that was floating by. And it stopped. And it started floating by in the opposite direction, and it stopped. And it started floating by in the other direction, and it stopped. And it started floating by in the other direction. And the neighbor lady said next door, said, Maud, you see that hat going this way, and then that way, and then this way, and then that way? Strangest thing I've ever seen. Just keeps going back and forth and back and forth in front of the house. Maud, she said, what's going on? Maud answered, she said, well, that's just my husband, Henry. He's the stubbornest man you have ever seen. Last Saturday night before we went to bed, he said, come Monday morning, he was going to mow the lawn, come hell or high water. You know what's going on next Sunday, don't you? That was kind of a weak response. Let me ask you this. If you are a mother or ever had a mother, raise your hand. Okay, now, all of us can identify with mothers that we can relate to that. There was a mother who was out shopping with her 3 children, and they were being unruly, and they were misbehaving terribly. And a friend shopping with her said, if you had it to do all over again, would you have children? And she said, yeah, but not the same one. Children. These 2 little boys, one was 8, the other about 5, and the 8-year-old said to his little brother, said, you know, I've been hearing big kids in school using cuss words. He said, you know, I think we're old enough that we can use cuss words too. And his younger brother nodded at him in assent. And so they agreed, and the next morning in breakfast, the mother asked the older boy, said, what do you want for breakfast? And he said, I'll have the damn Cheerios. And without saying a word, she snatched him by the hair of the head, drug him to the bathroom, washed his mouth out with soap, and sent him up to his bedroom, and came back down and asked the younger brother, now what do you have for breakfast? He said, I don't know, but it sure as hell ain't gonna be the damn Cheerios. Let me just say one more thing. Mother's Day is coming up. This fellow Jake Scott tells a story about when his mother was in the hospital. She was very ill, and the doctors didn't know if she was going to live. And it was now October, and he didn't know if his mother was going to live till Christmas, and he wanted to get her an early Christmas present. He came to a hospital room and said, Mom, what do you want for Christmas? You know what he was thinking about when she was in the hospital? He was thinking about a bathrobe or slippers or something that she could use in those last days in the hospital. And when he said, what do you want for Christmas? His mother was ready for that question. She pulled out a picture that she had torn out of a magazine. It was a picture of a beautiful spring purse with flowers all over it. Springtime colors. And she said, that's what I want. And with no questions asked, he brought a purse, that purse, for his mother for Christmas, thinking that she had never even seen January, much less February, March, or spring, when the purse would be in style. But she kept that spring purse by her bedside, kept it there day in and day out. And by the next February, she walked out of the hospital with that purse on her arm. And for many Christmases thereafter, Jack gave his mother a springtime purse, because he said the purse symbolized that she would indeed see spring. It gave her hope that spring would come, hope and the strength to live. Now what I want to say is this: I think that's what Mother's Day is all about. When a child is born, every mother has hope for what the child will become. Your mothers had hopes for you, my mother had hope for me. And Mother's Day is more than just mushy sentiment. It's all about honoring the women who had and still have great hopes for each one of us. Mothers, I think, more than anything else in our society, symbolize caring and hope. Honor them well this Sunday.
Thanks, Rob. Good job. We're going to have the pleasure of inducting some new members today, and Rusty DePass is going to lead that process. Rusty.
Let me echo Bob's words. I'm almost 67 years old, and every time I screw up, I can hear my mother just giving me hell. To this day. My father used to say there's no love in the world like a father for a daughter or a son for a mother, unless it is that of one drunk for another. Anyway, we have an induction today, and I would like for all of the inductees, presuming that they know who they are, to come forward with your sponsor, or some other friend that you might have latched onto since you came to the meeting today. And we'll do this in alphabetical order. And the first, turn and face the group, if you don't mind. And we'll do this in alphabetical order, which brings up Christopher Dial Burwell. I want to say that I've known Dial Burwell since, well, certainly before he was rich and famous, and since he was certainly a little boy. And it's a delight to run into you again in this context. He is not married. He is a producer with the Vista Insurance Group. Lives on Wilmot Avenue. And he was born here in Columbia. He's the newest member of the Wofford Mafia that's trying to take over the Columbia Rotary Club. And he's a member of the Eastminster Presbyterian Church. His hobbies are tennis, golf, triathlon, and fishing. And his classification is insurance broker, and his sponsor is John Johnston. So congratulations to you. The next inductee is John T. Creech, which I guess he wrote down to throw me off. Ted Creech. If you'd step forward a step or two. Ted is married to Rosa. They have 3 children and live on Hamptonwood Court in Columbia. Ted works with AT&T and was born in Blacksburg, Virginia. My mother told me one time when I was going to school up there that you would never ask somebody if they're from Virginia, because if they are, they'll find a way to tell you, and if they're not, you wouldn't want to embarrass them. His church affiliation is St. Thomas More, which I assume is a Catholic church. Is that right?
USC.
At USC, okay. His hobbies, get this, his hobbies are jogging, golf, Gamecock athletics, and Green Bay Packer fandom. He is a graduate of the University of South Carolina and was previously in the Charleston Rotary Club, 7 years down there. His classification is telecommunications, and his sponsor is Hal Stevenson. So, well. The next person to be inducted is James T. Fuller. James, if you'd step forward. And James's wife's name is Anna. They have 2 children, live on Chimney Hill Road. He is president of the Fuller Management Services. Doesn't say what he manages, but he's the president of it. He manages himself. He was born in Florence, is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, and a member of Shandon Baptist Church, and he has 1 hobby listed, and that's golf. His classification is business management, and his sponsor is Stephen Creech. I thought we just had so we got Creech sponsoring Fuller and Stevenson sponsoring Creech. Okay, nothing like trying to confuse me. And the last inductee today is Jeffrey E. Griffin. Jeff is married to Kristen, and he is the president of W.O. Blackstone, mechanical contractors. He's another one who couldn't get into Clemson and went to the University of South Carolina. Oh, and get this. You may want to know that Jeff has an MBA from the University of Colorado. So we know what he's been doing. He is, his hobbies, he didn't want to tell me this. He didn't want to tell me this, but I asked him, and he finally admitted that he was born in Raleigh. That in that valley of despair between two mountains of hope. His hobbies are golf, skiing, and mountain biking, and he is a member of the First Presbyterian Church. So his classification is contractor, mechanical, and his sponsor is Mark Sullivan. So welcome to and now if you would all turn around and face me for just a moment, I'm going to tell you something that you've already heard and that you're not going to hear for the last time from me. And that is all about why we think the Columbia Rotary Club is a great organization, and we hope you will be an active member of it, get involved in the things that the club does, attend the meetings, which is the most important aspect of it, and we think that you will thereby make a substantial contribution to the community and benefit yourself in the community in doing so. You've had all the past presidents stuff, and you've heard all of that before, and I think next Monday night, we'll be having a soiree over at the Stevenson's residence on Haygood Avenue, and I hope all of you can come, and those of you who have wives, bring them with you if you can talk them into coming, and Dal, you can bring a girlfriend or something. And you'll hear all the Rotary stuff again. But all of that is to make sure that you know kind of what's expected of you and how you can benefit from your membership. So we welcome you, and again, sit around at different tables, get to know people, and again, welcome. Thank you so much.
Lynn, do you have?
Holding up the invisible cart bucket.
You're holding up the invisible cart bucket. Okay, just put your money on the table, and Melinda will collect it afterwards and make sure it gets into a cart bucket. Just put your money on the table, might be easier. Okay, we also have a couple of Paul Harris Fellow awards to give. Ken East is going to come. Ken, and before he comes, I want you guys to know that May 15th is a deadline for everybody giving something to the Rotary Foundation, E-R-E-Y, every Rotarian every year. And so if you think that you have not given for some reason, or you just want to double check or something, Foundation Committee along with me is going to be over here at this table far end where nobody's sitting. Come up afterwards and check. It's a big deadline. We don't want to miss that as a club. You know, anything you give is something given and counts. Okay? Yeah.
On behalf of your foundation committee, it's certainly a privilege today to award 3 Paul Harris Fellows. Our first presentation will be to John Paris. It's certainly good to see John again. John graduated from Clemson and did graduate work at Clemson and Harvard. John served our state for 35 and a half years and retired after being, he was the executive director of the South Carolina Land Resource Commission from 1972 to 1994. Then from 1997 to 2011, he served the South Carolina FFA Association as state director, Office of Public Affairs. And John is a board member and past president of Clemson University National Agricultural Alumni Association. He is a member and past director of the South Carolina State Employees Association. He's also a member of First Baptist Church, where he went to church with my dad. He is a charter member and state director of the South Carolina Horse Show Association. I learned a lot about John getting his resume. Did not know all these. He received the Order of the Palmetto from Governor Carroll Campbell in 1994. And John was born in Campobello, South Carolina, so a native South Carolinian. So John, thank you very much for your contributions to the Our second award is to Anne Marie Sterritz. Anne Marie's been a Rotarian since 2003. She's been a member of the Columbia Rotary Club since 2006. She served 2 terms on our club board. She's recognized by Rotary International as a Guatemala Literacy Fellow for support of the Rotary Guatemala Literacy Project. She and her husband, John, made contributions to the project this year, allowing the Columbia Rotary Club to join other Rotary clubs from across the country in a Rotary Foundation global grant that raised over $339,000. We need to get her on the foundation committee. Anne Marie is Deputy Executive Director of the Office of Economic Engagement at the University of South Carolina. And this is Anne Marie's 4th Paul Harris Fellow. Our third award today is Glenn Call. Glenn is a lifelong resident of the Midlands. He was born in Columbia, a graduate of the University of South Carolina Business School and School of Law. He is a partner of the law firm of Nelson Mullins, Riley and Scarborough, where he practices corporate law, commercial real estate, and banking. Glenn serves on the boards of the Indian Waters Council, the Boy Scouts of America, and Sustainable Midlands, and as a deacon at the First Baptist Church. Glenn is married to Carol and is the proud father of 3 children, Devin, Graham, Cameron, and a Springer Spaniel bull record. So, thank you very much. And this is Glenn's 7th Paul Harris Fellow.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Again, I'll remind you at the end of the meeting about meeting up here if any of you have any questions about that or your status as a Paul Harris Fellow. Now, Kerry Powers will introduce our program. Kerry?
Good afternoon. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Lexington Mayor Steve MacDougall. Steve began his career in politics when he became Lexington Town Councilman in 2011. During his tenure as councilman, he served as the liaison for the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, who was instrumental in the implementation of the Lexington Ballpark. In 2013, Steve was elected mayor of Lexington, and he serves on the Central Midlands Council of Governments Executive Committee, Planning and Development Advisory Committee, and the Transportation Subcommittee. Mayor MacDougall is also a member of the Lexington County Joint Municipal Water and Sewer Commission. It is my personal opinion that Steve won the mayoral election with his grassroots efforts of knocking on thousands of doors, shaking lots and lots of hands, and taking the time to discuss his vision for a new Lexington with anybody who would listen to him. Mayor MacDougall has a background in public safety, business management, and hospitality. He's a graduate of Lexington High School, the University of South Carolina. He's a former law enforcement officer with the South Carolina Senate Sergeant at Arms Office. And some of you may remember when he owned the restaurant in the Vista on Lincoln Street called MacDougall's. A little over a year ago, I became Steve's neighbor, and in that time, I've gotten to know his family well. He is a dedicated father to his 3 girls, Brittany, Cameron, and Addison, and he's a dedicated husband to Jamie, who is a clinical coordinator in the Lexington Medical Center Emergency Department. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Rotary welcome to Lexington Mayor Steve MacDougall.
Good afternoon. It's my honor to be here with you today. When Kerry called me and asked me to do this, it was a couple months down the road, and I was trying to prepare for that day, but then it came up. I was asked to move the date up, so I had to put a couple things together pretty quickly, but I hope you enjoy what we have today. I had some jokes I was going to start out with, but Bob kind of stole my thunder. But I will tell you one thing. When I grew up in a family of 5 kids, and I was born in prison. So we had inmates around us, my mom and dad, my 4 brothers and sisters, several dogs, a horse, a couple cats. And I grew up thinking my name was Dammit for the longest time. Because my dad would go through the list, and by the time he got to me, he'd say, "Oh, just come here, Dammit." So I thought my name was Dammit for the longest time. If you don't mind, we'll go through. It's just about a 15-page presentation on our vision plan that we have in Lexington. We spent 2 years putting a vision plan together with over 400 people being involved in the vision plan. We did a 5, a 10, a 15, and a 20-year vision for the town, and came up with creative ideas on how to grow the town successfully, but in doing that responsibly and respectively. Remember who we were, and where we're going. So if you wouldn't mind, we'll go through this real quick. It's on our website, lexsc.com, if you'd like to take a look at it. I put some out on the tables today for you if you'd like to take one. I have a few extra also. These are some basic facts that we put out. Currently on the coffers is about 18,000 residents in the town of Lexington. When I moved to Lexington in 1976, there was 1,000 people in the town of Lexington. I could ride my bicycle up Old Chapin Road and down 378, and I could hear the tires on the car on the road coming toward me. And I'd pull off on the side of the road and stop and try to figure out who was driving the car just by the color and make of the car, because I knew who was driving it as soon as I saw the car. It was a mother, a sister, a brother, or father of somebody that I knew. It's a very small town. There was 300 people in my graduating class in 1981. Now we have 2 high schools and a 3rd right outside the town of Lexington. And they're graduating over 1,000 kids in each class. We are the 4th fastest growing municipality in South Carolina. In the last 11, 14 years, we grew by 83%. That's unprecedented growth in our area. We're pretty proud of it, but with that growth comes a lot of problems that you have to deal with daily. Our main focus is to provide basic amenities such as police, parks, water and sewer, building and zoning, and permits for licenses for new businesses. Through our vision plan, we broke the vision down into 4 phases for each year. Phase 1, we started a project, Lexington Square. We turned Lexington Square, which is right in front of the new courthouse, into our new town square where we can hold town events. And we also dedicated a wall to the memorial of all the police officers that have been slain in duty in Lexington County. We did this in partnership with LCLEOA, Lexington Beautification Foundation, the Bar Association, and the Dentist Corporation. This was one of our first projects in the vision plan, to create an area where people could come together and be together in one spot. We've created this area, and you'll see later in the slides where we use this area frequently now. Our next project that was in phase 1 of our vision plan was a snowball festival. The snowball festival dates back in Lexington over 30 years ago. During Christmas time, it was the only place to go gather with friends and family was Town Hall. And we had a big dance, and everybody looked forward to it year after year. Well, it kind of faded away. So in the vision plan process, we came up with the idea that we would recreate the Snowball Festival. This is our 2nd year. This will be our 3rd year this year, recreating that Snowball Festival. We've turned it into a 4-day event. We have a movie in the park on the first night. The next night we have a carnival and tree lighting. The next morning we have a 5K road race And then we have the parade that comes down Main Street that everybody looks forward to. This year was a little nasty weather, but we still made it through. Another project we have in the vision plan is to revitalize downtown. Part of that revitalization was to help business owners that are currently there with a grant from the town to redevelop and repurpose their front entrance to make the whole Main Street corridor come alive. In our first 2 years, we've had 13 recipients. It's a $5,000 grant. In return, they have $589,000 worth of return on that $30,000 investment. We felt like that was a pretty good return on our money. Put out $5,000 and get $600,000 back in improvements along that Main Street corridor. We've done it again this year, but I think what has happened, we had 15 applicants that applied for that money, and only one person met the criteria. The one person that met the criteria was actually going to spend a little more than $5,000 on this building, so we awarded him the money. We're going to relook at that vision plan, phase 1 project again, because it looks like with the 13 previous applications that we did, looks like we may have stretched that out. So we're going to rethink that, redo it a little bit, and see if we can't keep that project moving forward. Phase 2 of our traffic plan in Lexington was part of the vision plan to come up with a solution that you all have heard or probably maybe have witnessed at time to time. We do have a little bit of congestion in Lexington. So this was phase 1 or phase 2 project, but it's phase 1 of our traffic plan. We widened 3 intersections. It was 3 major intersections through town, and they were failing grades as far as through traffic. So what we did is we went in and widened these 3 intersections. They are currently completed. It is a completed project. We have some striping and marking to do, some signage that still needs to go up, but we're very proud of the progress that they made, even through the bad weather that we had. If you can see in that bottom left picture, we have installed the mast arms for all of our traffic lights now. We're taking down 90% of the traffic poles or wired poles that we have there for the lights, really improving the look of Lexington in that corridor. This is the project that we touched on earlier, is the Lexington Paul Park. When I was walking around knocking on doors, talking to people, I am not kidding you when I say every door I knocked on, I heard a dog bark. So I know there was a need for a dog park. We didn't have anything. There was a lot of people asking if we would ever get one. It was also part of the vision plan. It came up in the 400 people that were involved in it, made mention of it. I was on the advisory committee that Kerry told you about. We moved this project along in 5 months, and that's something that really doesn't happen in government much anymore. But it was my dog and pony show, and I was going to show them how it got done. We got private investors to get involved. I actually went out, rented a bobcat with a big bush hog on the front of it, and I bush hogged the land that morning, and the town administrator showed up and asked me what I was doing, had I gone crazy, and I said, no, I'm just trying to get y'all to get this thing moving. And 5 months later, we opened it. We currently have 187 members of the dog park utilized daily. It's probably our most used amenity, if you can believe that. Lexington Paul Park. We just had a groundbreaking for it 2 weeks ago. Pretty excited about it. Phase 2 project Ice House. Some of you may have heard about this. This is our first attempt at downtown redevelopment. This will be a 20-acre amphitheater with retail and some private business along the Main Street corridor, Church Street access. We just passed first reading on a TIF district. We created a TIF district downtown in Lexington. Includes about 98 acres. We're pretty excited about it. We have 45 days for anybody who is against the TIF district to come forward. We've done our homework though. We've talked with the Education Foundation. We've talked with the county. They're all on board for us to do this. It has very little impact on their tax base. So we feel pretty good about it. The TIF district will create about $6 million in revenue for this one project. And along with it, we'll do a park that walks around Gibson Pond. I don't know if you're familiar with Gibson Pond, but it's a historic pond that we have there on 12 Mile Creek. And we will do a walk around Gibson Pond that will tie into the amphitheater up on Main Street. Pretty exciting project, probably take us several years to get it up and going. I rode by this morning. The buildings that were on this property are currently being demolished. The one building on the corner of Main and Church Street will be held for redevelopment. We have a interested party that wants to redevelop that one building and kind of kickstart the redevelopment of that property. This is another picture. Everything in color is the amphitheater. The white in the left portion of the screen is a amenity that we have now. It's an old schoolhouse that we renovated into a wedding hall. We rent it almost every weekend, so it will tie into a park that we already have. I'm very excited about what goes on there. We've got a national company looking at this site. You may have read in the paper, Stone Brewing Company is looking at this site to have their retail space on this site, and then we'll have a space for them in our industrial park for their actually where they would brew the beer. This is our latest phase 2 project, which will open tomorrow. Some of you may have seen this. This is Interstate I-20 and 378. The sign on the left side of your screen is our very first front porch entrance. It was part of our vision plan to create a front porch to invite people into Lexington and welcome them when they drive past it. It is actually going to open tomorrow. It is the most beautiful sign I've ever seen. It's pretty impressive. The picture on the right is the 4 loops, if you will, off of I-20 onto 378. We have completely beautified every piece of that land. It was a grant that we got from DOT and Lexington Beautification Foundation. Not a penny of taxpayer dollar went into that, but we're going to beautify the entire area. And this will just be our first front porch entrance. We have 3 more to go. This is part of keeping, this is our phase 2 project, part of keeping our history alive. This is a project that we got involved in. It is a creek that runs down through Lexington called 14 Mile Creek. We created a walking trail that walks from the head, which is up on Old Cherokee, and 3,500 feet up into the woods. You get halfway down this trail, and you can see there's houses on both sides, and that's Highway 6 that runs along the left side of it. You cannot hear a car, you cannot hear a truck, you can't hear anything. It's absolutely beautiful down in there. The creek is the loudest thing that runs down through there, and it's we're pretty excited about it. Got a lot of schools already calling on us to book the amphitheater that we have down in there. It's a small stage and seating that we created down in there for the people to come and use it. There was a $100,000 grant from Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, and we had to match it with a 20% fund. This is probably the most exciting thing we have going on in Columbia, or Lexington rather. This computerized traffic signalization system will tie all of our traffic lights through town together, and they will actually talk to each other. The mast arms that you saw earlier when we did the widening will hold a camera. Now the camera will not record, it will only take real-time pictures. And while it's taking those real-time pictures, it counts cars as coins. And every third coin, it trips the light. So there's no congestion at all with this system. When it's installed, it will be the largest installation in the country. And we're pretty excited about it. DOT's pretty excited about it too, because they came to us and said they would cut 6 months off of the process if they could have control over it.
And I said, you can have control over it, just install the system. It's been approved, the money is there. The money we got for the first part of our phase 1 project, widening the streets, was $16 million. It only cost us $14 million to do that process. But in the time, in the period of us doing that construction, DOT came to us and said, listen, we've got a shortfall in Chapin. We'd like to use your leftover money to finish this job up in Chapin. And I said, okay. I said, what do we get in return? And he said, well, how about $2 million more? And I said, when do you want the money? So we turned $2 million into $4 million, and that paid for the adaptive signalization system. We just finished with DOT, which is another red tape that sometimes you have to deal with. But we cut 6 months out of the project. We got the agreement written. We signed off on it last week. It's back in their court. It's in engineering right now. Basically, all they have to engineer is where the posts will go for the mast arms that will hold the lights and the cameras. The system itself is a plug-and-play system, so they could take 2 cameras out, plug them in, hook it up to the mainline computer, and the system will start working, easing congestion through Lexington. This will have the biggest impact on traffic in Lexington. We're really excited about it. That's the slide that I had. That Brett Poole is our administrator. If you have any questions that I can't answer today, he can answer them. I am a very fortunate man to be elected to the position I am, because I am surrounded by the most qualified people in municipal government. We have award-winning staff in every level of our town, and very lucky to be there, very proud to be there. And I would open it up to questions, but I just wanted to go over one quick thing. 2013, to give you a little taste of what kind of growth we're having in Lexington, we had a total of 236 business location permits. Year to date, we have 186. So we're on pace to either meet or surpass what we did last year as far as new business and new business growth in the town of Lexington. We're very excited about what's happening over there. A lot of the big name companies are now courting us instead of us courting them. They're coming to us saying they've been holding this project for years and years and years, but now they're bringing those site plans to us for approval, and we're very proud of that and very excited about our future. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, congratulations on your growth. It sounds like you all need a minor league baseball team.
Well, I wouldn't want to mention that, but we are building, we are having the Dixie Youth World Series this year, and we've got it again next year out in Lexington. And we are working on plans for a, maybe not a minor league baseball park, but it's going to be a phenomenal little park out there in Lexington by our current facility.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes.
What about the airport in Lexington and Richland County? And I know that's not a popular subject, but I talked to so many people that are driving, you've heard it 1,000 times. Driving to Charlotte, driving to Greenville, cheaper to fly to there than out of Columbia. And we have a combination, I understand, of airport condition made up of Lexington and Richland that hardly ever changes. And it's just, we got a great airport, but horrible prices as far as getting in and out of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Is John Monk still here? Oh, good, I can say this. That is a hot topic, and I actually have a meeting at DOT next week. We have been pushing that project. We met with the governor's office 2 weeks ago. It is very important to Lexington County, Richland County, Columbia. It's important to everybody around here that that connector get finished. Future growth at UPS hinges on it. Future growth at FedEx hinges on it, and future growth for our town hinges on it. So we are actively pushing that. From what I'm hearing, there was not enough rumblings for roads and bridges this year. but next year's legislative session, that will be the hot topic. Yes, sir.
Would you share with the people in the city of Columbia where you got your traffic light thing?
I sure will. I think, I'm serious when I say this. It will reduce traffic congestion in the town of Lexington by probably 30%, probably greater. And that's why DOT wanted control over it, because when it happens, it's going to get worldwide attention, and it's going to be pretty amazing.
We'll do that after the baseball stadium.
30 years.
That'd be fine, Randy.
Yes, sir.
What is the composition of Lexington today? How many residents are born in Lexington of your current residents? How many are natives? What I'm trying to say.
That's a good question. It dwindles more every day. We have more people moving into the town of Lexington, and fewer of us that grew up there and saw it when it was just a small two-horse town, as we like to call it. I don't have that exact figure, but I could get it for you. But it's a tremendous amount of people that are moving into Lexington. We just had a developer come to us, and that's why I read this business number to you. We had a developer come to us. He's building a 500 home neighborhood, and he wants it annexed into the town. So yeah, we're getting a lot of people from out of town. Yes, sir.
What do you attribute that to?
We have constantly had #1 schools. Our schools are phenomenal. Our teachers are great. They're award-winning staffs at the schools. We have a very safe community. Our police department was awarded, out of the state, was awarded the Agency of the Year for DUI enforcement. So I attribute it to the police departments that we have and the schools that we have. Yes, sir.
How do you and the rest of the council members work together? Do you have discussions about how you're going to function? Because in certain municipal governments, there's stories of council members calling a police officer that they know and going around the city manager and bucking that whole process. And it becomes problematic, but nobody ever specifically discusses that in certain towns that
Yeah, I had that conversation with somebody in that town, and it's really sad because economically they're going to put themselves probably 10 years behind the 8 ball, and it's really sad that they can't work that out between them before they get out in public. I ran on making sure that my council was informed. They knew what I knew. We talked, we sang from the same sheet of music, and before we get in public, we have agreed to disagree, but we go in public and we do what's right for the town. Anybody else?
And you're welcome to come back to the Rotary Club anytime. Bring your restaurant back to the Vista, any of that, all good. John, who is our program for next week?
Next week we have Peter Sutton, who is head of the Michelin plant in Lexington, and he's going to be talking about the tire industry in South Carolina.
All right, great. You don't want to miss next week's meeting because the board meets before next week's meeting, and we will reveal our decision about venue. I will give you an update that there are quite a bit of votes for Seawolves. They are in the lead at the moment. We have not gotten all votes in, but if you have not voted, I'm going to try to send out another link to this Survey Monkey thing. I just thought that had a nice sound to it. It felt like a Survey Monkey up there.
It's on the website too.
It's on the website, Kerry. go to the website. Go do it. Go check it out. All right. Don't forget, if you have any thought that you may not have written a check to the foundation at this time this year, come over here quickly to this table. And Jim, we're going to end up with America the Beautiful. If you'll stand yours.
The 14th works for me. It's your place.
I'll get that sent out today. So
Okay.
she'll announce it today, but we
Yeah.
can announce it next week too.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
How you doing? Good to see you. Devin, how you doing? How are you? Yeah, well, nice to see you. Join us. Big day. That was fun. I gotta see you do that again. I gotta see if you can do it 2 times in a row. I told my son, see a day of he plays golf right there. So I was telling him about the first step. Must be something to it. You look like an angel. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Now, welcome. Russ, good to see you. Yeah. Not at all. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Okay.
Yes, sir. Come in.
There.
insurance guy doesn't have, look for a salesman.